Call to order the meeting of the Select Board of November 4th. Looking to go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss PFAS litigation. Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to discuss collective bargaining with the Police Brotherhood. Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss collective bargaining, Police Brotherhood. Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, collective bargaining with the Director of Planning. Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss potential litigation, which was the rejection of the Cannabis Control Commission of the executed host community agreement with Solar Therapeutics. Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, collective bargaining with the facility supervisor. All these items will be discussed in executive session if the chair declares and have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares, which I do. And also the approval of the executive session minutes of October 7th and October 21. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. On the motion, any questions? Roll call vote. Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Ms. Brooks? Yes. Mr. O'Neill? Yes. And the chair goes in favor. We'll return as close to 6:30 as possible. at Dartmouth Community Television. Please rise for a Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing thereafter. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as we offer a moment of silence for our service personnel, both here and abroad, and both past and present. All right, please be seated. The warrant has been passed around and signed. Let's get down to business. We're going to just flip the order of appointments because we want to make sure that every business succeeds, and the last thing they need to do is pay attorney fees. So, first item on the agenda, we have the application of a transfer of a year-round restaurant wines, malt, and beverages for Jean Fu. I think that's what it is, DBA Peking Gardens at 33 Fonts Corner Road in the wonderful town of Dartmouth, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
For Peking Garden, I believe we have attorney Christopher Markey.
You are correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you. All we're looking for is a transfer of the liquor license to provide Peking, I'm calling it Peking ravioli. I think I'm hungry. Peking Garden, the opportunity to serve beer and wine. Michael has taken over the business in May. They haven't been serving beer or wine since then, but they want to start back up with the license that's in it. That is active currently from the previous owners. He has history. The manager would be Michael Lamb. He has a history of working at restaurants. He did run the Peking Buffet over in Fairhaven from 2006 to 2011. He is familiar with the Peking Garden here on Fonts Corner Road.
And he'll be tip certified. And
He is tip certified. All bartenders will be tip certified.
okay. Board members have any questions? Board pleasure.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr.
Transfer
Mickelson,
year-round
seconded by
restaurant.
Mrs. Brooks.
Mrs. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, none, unanimous.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
All
it.
right.
Thank you.
Now get out of here. All right, next item on the agenda, we have the application received for a transfer for a year-round all alcohol package store license for Envy Enterprise LLC DBA Acme Liquors at 722 Dartmouth Street.
Thank
How
you,
you
Chair.
doing?
Thank you, Board. Matthew Porter. I'm the attorney for Envy Enterprise LLC. Along with me is Vaibhav Rupapara. Mr. Rupapara is one of the principals of the LLC. So before the board, this relates to the sale of Acme Liquors. So we're asking for a transfer of that license. Mr. Rupapara and his ownership group bring a wealth of experience. Hitesh Patel, who's one of the owners and is going to be the proposed license manager, owns another store in Taunton. So they certainly understand the rules and responsibilities that come along with that. He's alcohol tip certified. All employees would be required to be alcohol tip certified as well. They'll have a scanning machine in place to make sure there's no fake identification being used. But other than that, there's no major anticipated changes. So hours remain the same, structure, same business, just different ownership group. In addition to the transfer license, they are requesting a pledge of license. Rockland Trust is financing the transaction. So before the board is just a request for a pledge of license and inventory to Rockland. But otherwise, I can certainly answer any questions the board may have, and Mr. Rupapara can as well.
Board members have any questions? Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the transfer.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mrs. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous. Good luck.
And if I could
All right,
just
and
ask
then
for...
we need a second motion to allow the pledge of the license to Rockland Trust. So do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by
Mrs. Brooks.
Mrs. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous.
Excellent.
Got it.
Thank you. Appreciate
Good luck, gentlemen.
It's a good location.
Hey, you know,
Come on, you can
get
stay a
him in,
little
get him
longer.
out. All right, that concludes the appointments. So we have new business, and we have an application for common vic license, Luca's House of Pizza, 3 Corner Fonts Road. Everybody's been waiting. When are we going to open? When is he going to open? When is he going? Luca, tell us, when are you going to open?
Good evening, Chairman, Board.
We're shooting for the 18th. It's been a long 2.5 years since we purchased the property there. As most of you know, my father owns Jimmy's Pizza. He's been a mainstay in Dartmouth for almost 50 years. I'm hoping to take the experience that I learned working with him since I was like 5.
Yeah.
When you were about that big.
We all saw you when you were like that, so.
And start my own legacy and bring my own ideas and quality product to Dartmouth and surrounding communities like he did. So.
Your family's done a great job on that location. It looks great. And there is a buzz about waiting for you to open up. So, and,
Yeah, everyone asked about what the name Lucas came from. He's my youngest son. He's 10 years old, and we decided to name it after him. So.
Very nice.
built-in legacy.
No grudges from the other two. So.
Built-in legacy.
Yeah.
Board members have any questions? All right, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the common vic license.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by
Mrs. Brooks?
Mrs. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none unanimous. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you on the 18th.
Thank you.
Is there a drive-through for you, Sean? Is there a drive-through for you?
No, there's no drive-through.
Okay.
That location would be crazy if there was a drive-through. Are you kidding me? All right, next, is we have the police appointments. Chief.
Good evening. The department's currently down 12 officers, and in a couple weeks, we have another officer retiring. Fortunately, we do have 4 student officers attending the Plymouth Academy, scheduled to graduate in January. On September 6th, we requested the new hire list from Civil Service. It contained 130 candidates, 12 of which signed they were willing to accept the position with us. On September 23rd, we held a mandatory orientation at the station to screen these candidates. Out of the 12 candidates, 2 did not return their applications or attend the orientation. 1 did not meet the minimum requirements. 4 are not recommended. 3 withdrew during the process, leaving us with 2 candidates. I'm going to recommend that we bypass one of the candidates, and I have provided the interim town administrators with the necessary documentation and explanation of that. This candidate was bypassed in our previous round of hiring. I feel the justification for the bypass remains relevant and timely. I'm requesting that 2 conditional offers of employment be issued. The first candidate is Parker Souza. He's a Dartmouth graduate, a Dartmouth resident and graduate of Dartmouth High School, where he played football. He's currently pursuing an associate's degree in criminal justice at Bristol Community College. He's excited to begin his career as a police officer and ready to help people in the community. A second candidate is Corey Mello, also a resident employed by Bristol Elder Services in Fall River as a case manager. He's a graduate of Rhode Island College with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. During his time at New Bedford High School, he proved to be an accomplished wrestler. He attained a 2-time Division I state champion and a New England champion. So in closing, I'm recommending that we bypass 1 candidate and extend conditional offers to Parker Souza and Corey Mello. This would allow us to continue our hiring process. We're targeting an academy start in January. Thank you for consideration.
So this would be, so if we
2 things to do.
tend the offer, they go January to the academy, correct?
Yeah, so with the conditional offer, it allows us to, we still need to do a medical, psychological, as well as they pass the state physical ability test.
So after the academy, boots on the street? When?
After the academy, yeah, they would go through a field training process. It's a long process. The academy lasts about, 5 months or so, and then we do about 3 or 4 months of field training. But we will be having the 4 hopefully graduate from the academy in January. They'll enter our field training program at the same time. We'll put 2 more in. I wouldn't be able to start hiring again until July, which is when the new civil service list should come out. We've exhausted this list, so there really are no more candidates at this point on the current list.
Good. All right, board members have any questions? Okay, board's pleasure.
I'd like to offer a conditional offer of employment to Parker Souza and Corey Mello, police appointment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. On the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous. All right, gentlemen.
We have to vote on that bypass. We have to vote on that bypass. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Chief. All right, next item on the agenda, we have the reappointment to the Waterways Management Commission, Andrew Hurley. Is Andrew here?
No.
Okay, but for some reason this comes in. All right, let's see. Okay, so what's the board's pleasure on the reappointment?
Motion to reappoint Andrew Hurley to the Waterways Management Commission.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. On the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous. Next is the appointment to the Waterways Management Commission, Eli Powell.
Is Eli?
There's Eli.
Good evening.
How you doing, Eli?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
All right. Please see the, okay, let's see. Interest. Oh, so yeah, you're going from the junior league to the major league.
Right, yeah.
Sounds good. All right. So, actually, Eli is an ad hoc member, and with the position open by the resignation of
Patty
Patricia Swearendyke, they're needing a member, and Eli's decided to step up. So evidently, as an ad hoc member, he wasn't scared off, so which is good. So, board's pleasure.
Motion to appoint Mr. Powell to the Waterways Management Commission.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mrs. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none unanimous.
Great. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You get a letter, then you'll have to be sworn in, and then go from there.
Very good.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
All righty. Next item on the agenda, we have, let's see, we have the temporary license agreement at 562 Reed Road. Everything has been reviewed by their counsel and our counsel. And we did get receipt of the insurance certificate, if I remember correctly, in the email. So this was discussed, and so we need
to sign that, right? Yeah.
we need the board to act upon the agreement.
Motion to sign the temporary license agreement
Okay, is there a
at
second?
562 Reed Road.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And on the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, none, unanimous. All right, so let's sign away, and then they can sign it. Get started on that end. So you got it. You got what you need.
Good luck.
Another one. All right, moving right along. We have Mass DEP petition.
That's me.
Director Michaud.
Good evening, members of the Select Board, Mr. Chair. Christopher Michaud, Director of Public Health, for the record. In your agenda packets is a draft petition document to Mass DEP. As discussed at the last meeting, we discovered that 310 CMR 202 provides for any person to petition Mass DEP for a change in their regulations. This document, that's a draft, is still a working document. I know that there are typographical errors in what you have received. It was put together last week, early in the morning, each day before the start of work. We've been working on it since it went into your agenda, late on Friday and today. And we've corrected a lot of the edits in there. However, there's still more work that needs to be done. We need to arrange some of the footnotes in here in proper citation order. But more importantly, what I need to do is work on the exact language that we're going to propose if this board and/or other boards so chooses to submit a petition. The petition has to contain the draft language. But I don't expect Mass DEP to accept draft language and just copy it verbatim. It's a talking point. It's a talking point to what this letter contains. This letter is not Chris Michaud's writings. This letter is a summary of the hundreds of conversations I've had with residents over the last 10 years that have suffered the obnoxious odors from composting. Those conversations that began about 2 years ago about the concerns about the bigger issue, which is water quality. And one little item that's touched upon in here that one resident from Songbird expressed some concern about when she read an article in the Boston Globe, and that's the horror show that's unfolding in Westminster, Massachusetts, with a Mass DEP investigation, which is focusing on well water contamination and investigating that to a potential source from composting. In this draft document, it is written from my conversation with that person that perhaps that situation could have been avoided altogether with better regulations like we have found in other states, such as New York, more importantly, Maryland. So if the board, is interested in signing this, this document here tonight will not change other than a few little grammatical errors. And that's all. Thank you.
So, Mr. Michaud, if the board agrees to sign the petition, do we need to have other boards sign in on it also, or is this board good enough to get this document to DEP and get something going?
Great question. As provided in their regulations, it can be signed merely by one person. But I believe the unity of all of the varied expertise of the town of Dartmouth would be far more significant in weighting to Mass DEP.
So those boards would be the Select Board, Board of Health, Conservation Commission, and DPW?
I would agree with that.
Waterways?
I would agree with that.
How about Waterways Commission?
I would agree with that as well.
Okay. Anybody else we can throw in?
Conservation, did we mention that? Concom?
Yeah,
Question?
Mr. Concord.
Okay.
Mr. Tettelbaum?
I just had a brief conversation with Chris Markey. He hadn't seen it, but he's a proponent. I would suggest that we reach out to him and to Senator Montigny to sign it as well. I think they will, but reach out and ask them to.
Well, I think once we have the draft letter completed, signed on by all boards, then we can send a copy to Senator Montigny and Representative Markey, so that they are aware of what we want to do with DEP.
I think they should be on the signature. Your opinion?
Wouldn't hurt.
As I mentioned at the last meeting, both of our legislators have been extraordinary allies to our constituents in this ongoing problem. I try not to reach out to them on every little thing where we seem to have opportunities to allow them to do those other things that they are charged with doing. But I did speak with Ms. Riding in the senator's office after the last meeting, and, you know, she is aware of this document, and, you know, I'm working with her on a few other items as it relates to water quality, but she is aware of this document exactly. So we could continue to keep both on board with it.
I would suggest, in my view, is that we send them that draft from the Select Board office, not from you, that we ask them to participate and put their line to sign it, so they're included on this document when we send it in. That's my suggestion.
Or we could ask him, but it's not
Obviously,
necessary. Yeah.
no, obviously we've got to ask it.
Right. But I think, all right, so the next step would be to get a completed document ready to go, along with a page of signatures made available and passed around to the boards. So what we would need from this board tonight would be a motion to allow this petition to proceed, to be drafted and corrected, and also to request the signatures of the, besides the Select Board, Department of Public Works, the Conservation Commission, the Board of Health, and the Waterways Commission as signatures, co-sponsors of the letter. That's what we want them to be co-sponsors of the letter, and to also send to Representative Markey's office and to Senator Montigny's office the draft with a suggestion that they are free to sign on with us if they so choose.
I'll make that motion.
So, motion made by Mr. Tattlebaum. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Mickelson. On the motion, any questions?
Question.
Mr. O'Neill.
So, Chris, are you saying that you need to have the draft regulation included with the package?
That is correct, sir. 310 CMR 202 requires an exact text of what we're proposing.
All right, and that would be included with this letter.
That is correct, sir.
So that we don't have that right now.
That is
How long do
something
you think it would take you to kind of put it together? I know it's going to be
I'm trying to make it as simple as possible, knowing that if we are to get an audience, a productive audience with DEP, not just a pacifier, but a meaningful discussion on the facts that we know here are facts. And this is just a summary. This is 11 or 12 pages. I could have gone on for 70 pages on the facts. Then we want to make it as simple as possible, because if they are going to go forward with what's right, they're going to put it into their own language. And I'll give a spoiler, and that spoiler is even going to be to Mass DEP tonight, because I had a conversation with the regional director after the last meeting, and he said, I saw the article in Dartmouth Weekly. And he saw that article because Mass DEP has someone on their staff that every day goes in and trolls the internet looking for articles about the environment that pertain to Mass DEP. And they saw that article in Dartmouth Weekly.
What was the reaction?
So, yeah, that they saw it, and, you know, they don't like to talk beyond what they're allowed to talk about it, but that they saw about it, they saw it, and that they were talking about it. So I talked to an official in another agency, and they were aware of it as well. We're finally having the opportunity to attract their attention on the problems that exist in 310 CMR 1600. So at the last meeting I had mentioned, I had met with Mr. Gary Moran, who was the acting commissioner, who when he met with me in this building in April of 2023, he was then the assistant commissioner. I gave him a lot of opportunities for correction. And the most meaningful opportunity is the state of Maryland's composting regulations. We've researched a lot of others, and we feel as though Maryland, with their focus on the Chesapeake Bay and the culture that surrounds the Chesapeake Bay in that state, is one of the best places to look.
Excellent.
Yeah. Right. But these regs will largely follow that we're going to write up.
So my only problem, Sean, is that we don't have the proposed regulation in the package for us to review. And, you know, I'm in agreement that something has to be done. You know, I'm in agreement, obviously, that DEP has to sit at the table and discuss this with us. And, you know, you've already acknowledged that Dartmouth is not the only town in Massachusetts, and these regulations would affect other towns, and we have to be cognizant of all that, and we could go on for 5 hours about it. But without that proposed regulation included in the package, I wouldn't be able to sign it. I mean, I need to see exactly what we're proposing, you know?
All right, so then, I mean, basically, the motion would be to proceed with the draft, and then once we get the draft, then we'll have a final,
And then we'll sign it then.
we'll have it and sign it, so.
Yeah,
But you can
that's
proceed
the
with it.
that's the only thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Anticipation on that would be the next meeting. You know, I had to first copy all of their regs that I'm foreseeing as needing change, which is about 16 pages, and now I have to go in and redline it.
What kind of input, Chris, have you, like, when you talk about the regulation that you want to propose, what kind of input do you get from the private sector?
The input that we've received from the private sector has been varied. Everything from, we see trash trucks going in the woods. There's illegal dumping going on back there. What are you doing about it? To, I can't go outside, I can't open my windows, and it's the first beautiful day of summer. And then, you know, more specifically after that issue in Westminster, Massachusetts unfolded, who's going to test my well? How do I know my well's how do I know my well is safe and I don't have these forever compounds in my well? And is the town going to test it? So they've all been great questions based on fears from what they can see and what they've read. And that Westminster issue it's real, and that's scary. What's happening there?
Can I just get some clarification? Last time you talked about the possible impact of composting, illegal composting, versus the comparative of what might be going on with with broken septic systems. And you seem to indicate that the potential of composting could be even a greater threat to our water quality than the septic system. Is that did I hear that correctly?
Quantitatively, that's a difficult bridge to make. But what we know is that these large-scale composting facilities are composting for profit, whereas people on septic systems are largely 99% trying to live in their homes. Big difference. And that we know that when we assess a composting site's discharges to environment and a septic system's discharges to environment, and those primary pollutants, total nitrogen, a commercial compost site blows it out of the water. A septic tank's discharge to the environment is about 70 milligrams per liter of total nitrogen. We've referenced in this document in the footnotes where you can find some of the testing that we've done. In this document that's available online, we've seen total nitrogen from compost leachate in wetlands far in excess of 70 milligrams per liter. We found 90 milligrams per liter in a pond receiving compost leachate, and DEP did nothing. We had to undertake the enforcement through town council, zoning, health, and conservation, and shut that operation down. So composting is a major source that does blow out of the water a homeowner's septic system's minutia of discharges.
Last question. Do you foresee a need for town council to look at this document before we actually send it out?
I would submit to the board for that.
That was a rhetorical question.
Well, we can, I mean, once we get the final, we can send it to Anthony for his perusal. Yeah, I'm taking the call.
Wouldn't hurt.
We got a lot of significant people signing it, and if something's wrong with it, which
Would
I
not
would
hurt at all.
anticipate.
Be good for him to do.
Chris, where's the Buzzards Bay Coalition on the issue?
So after
And I
the
don't want you to speak for them, obviously,
Yeah.
but if you have some kind of...
So I had to pause a bit, and you have to forgive me while I pause a bit because we've been dealing with this so broadly and for so long. So in September or October of, I believe it was 2018, in this very room, I sat right around in here with a presentation there by Mass DEP about the draft Slocum River TMDL. And at that meeting, Mike O'Reilly, the Environmental Affairs Coordinator, and myself both spoke to Mass DEP and the residents at that hearing about the concern with composting. Following that meeting, the next day I received an email from a resident who expressed her concern that Buzzards Bay Coalition had been silent on the matter and wanted to know where they stood. I was contacted a short while later by Corinne Peterson from Buzzards Bay Coalition, and we met and we talked, and this is what she envisioned as corrective action. I did express some concern that if we were too light-footed in it, that it was going to be just merely nothing more than a talking session without any results. Unfortunately, that's what came of it. I know that they're focused on it. I know that they're interested. I know that there was an issue in an adjoining town that we gave to Buzzards Bay Coalition that showed a composting site that was discharging into the Westport River. That, as we reference in this document, we had the finger pointing, the sibling-like finger pointing of state agencies of, that's not my site, that's not my site. All the while, for several years, that compost site discharged directly into the river. So I know that did attract some state attention when Buzzards Bay Coalition put that on their banner page to talk about it. And eventually it did shut down.
We need to vote on this?
Yeah. Basically, it's to allow Director Michaud to continue with a final draft and to...
Motion and second, I guess, right, don't we? Yeah.
We already do, yeah.
Yep, we already have it.
And we voted?
So any other questions?
No, we didn't.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None unanimous. All right, go to it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you.
Thanks, Chris.
Agenda again.
Pitbull, man, the pitbull out there.
Next item on the agenda, we have the Dartmouth Cultural Center Phase 1 Project Design Presentation and Review.
Okay.
Good evening. Pauline Santos, President, Dartmouth Cultural Center. Before Catherine shows the progress we've made, I just want to give you a reminder that we don't have a lease anymore, and I know you're aware of that. But in May, we asked for a meeting to renew our lease. We were told we would have a meeting before July. That didn't happen. And of course, we realized the administration, changed and all that. So, but the Dartmouth Cultural Center, I sent a letter asking about a 30-year lease, and that has to go before the town meeting, and I understand that. But we're thinking maybe a 10-year lease with an option for another 10 years if we're in compliance might be another option. Even though we have the funds for our project from CPC and the Mass Cultural Council, those funds can't be used for our operation. You understand that we have to keep Dartmouth Cultural Center going so that we can continue with this project, and we need to raise funds. First thing we're asked when we try to get a grant, do you have a lease or do you own the building? How long is the lease? Are you handicap accessible? So we're working on all of those things, but we really need to have something to say. I don't want to say to anyone that we don't have a lease. So I don't know what other options there are, but I'm hoping that you can come up with a solution.
That brings up a good question. In the applications for any of the grants that you've been involved in, or even with the CPC, Is there a break point, say 10 to 15 to 20 years, where it would be more helpful to you in your endeavors to get a lease for 15 versus 10, or, you know?
The longer the lease is, the better for us, because if someone's going to be putting in some huge amounts of money, they want to know that, you know, we're going to be.
But you
still
haven't
be
run into
there.
anything specific about the term?
No.
Okay,
No,
all right.
no.
I know it is the intention of this board to continue with the lease. Now, as far as legally, you might not have an existing lease, but until such a time, it becomes a month-to-month. So technically, you do have a lease, because we
Until-
haven't sent you a termination letter or anything like that, which is not going to happen.
Okay.
It's just a matter of time. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this board can authorize a 3-year lease without town council, without town meeting, but anything beyond 3, we have to go to town meeting.
Right.
Let me ask a question. When we didn't we have a meeting, didn't we have an article at town meeting to say that, or was it specific for Burgo?
I think it was specific to Virgo.
Yeah, it wasn't an open,
It wasn't an open thing?
No, it was just for
Okay,
Virgo at that
all right,
point.
so it was
Yeah,
for Burgo.
that's
Okay.
correct.
So, yeah, so anything beyond that, we'd have to go to town meeting.
But unfortunately, this is upsetting. When I'm hearing her talk about it, it was discussed in May. This should have been something that,
Drop the ball.
Well, I
on
mean,
October.
the timing wasn't the greatest. I mean,
So now we gotta wait till
basically, our
June.
town administrator had flew the coop and basically left us completely.
We need to do whatever we need to do
Right.
to get this done as quick as
I
possible.
mean, we can authorize right now
3.
a 3-year lease. We can do that right now.
Do we know it
Because
can be
that's
mo-
within,
Can it be more than 3?
we cannot do more than 3 because it has to go to town meeting.
That's a 3.
We can do a 3
Do we know
right now.
Do we know the terms, Gary, of the current lease?
It would be basically the same, but the thing is that the terms would have to be, it would have to reflect whatever the old lease has to be upgraded to
a 3-year lease.
a new 3-year with a term, so we can have it at the next meeting.
Yeah, so why don't we do that? We'll have it, the terms.
At least
of
have the
prior lease.
3-year, and then we can go to town meeting to extend it X number of years thereafter.
Perfect.
The-
Great.
the- And you want as many years as you can get on
As
this.
we can get,
Go
yes,
for it.
30
And
years
go
was
for it, yes.
originally. Tom?
Yeah, Tom Leverett, Dartmouth Cultural Center. So I write grants for several art organizations and the Vietnam Veterans of America. So they told me Smith Foundation, Peabody Foundation, if we had a good lease, they would give us money. But what we have now, they're not going to submit anything.
Right. So that's what I said. So at least you can get a 3-year lease, get that going with our commitment to extend the lease further. So, I mean, that's been a given. It's just getting,
I have a meeting with Bay Coast Bank, Nick, the president. If they've had a good year, they will give us more money this year.
they should have a
So-
good year. They've got 14 of my accounts there, so.
Yeah. Well, they give us money every year for 5 years.
Very generous.
Bay Coast Bank and Bank 5.
That's
They're
great.
pretty good.
Okay, good.
Always good news.
Clarification?
Yes.
So you're saying there's no need to investigate whether we can go more than 3 years without town meeting?
We have been told in the past that we can give a new lease of 3 years max without town meeting approval.
So the old lease was 3 years?
Yes.
Okay.
So we will have a new lease for 3 years,
2 weeks.
3.
No, in 2 weeks.
And-
The next meeting.
Yeah, but I haven't finished the sentence yet. At our next meeting in 2 weeks. And that lease will begin November 1st.
Yeah, and it'll carry us over to town meeting, so if at town
Right.
meeting they want to.
And then we can go from there.
And then we will in June.
So we'll have that, and then that'll be an article in June.
Yep.
For 10, 20 years,
To extend
whichever,
these.
yep,
25 years.
25 years, that's fine.
30 years. Sold.
All right. All right, so now that's been taken care of. Presentation.
Okay, good evening, Chairman and members of the Dartmouth Board of Selectmen. Catherine Duff of Studio 2 Sustain for the record. We're the architects, and just to follow up on the why the lease matters right now for what you're going to see tonight, we're getting ready to go out to bid for Project 1. And the grant tours of paying for the project, mostly the Cultural Facilities Fund for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Cultural Council, has made us, they don't term the Dartmouth Cultural Center their own entity because of the short-term lease that they have on the building. So we have to go out to bid because, as you know, the building's owned by the town of Dartmouth. We have to treat it like a municipal bid, which means a public procurement process, which means prevailing wage and pretty strict regulations in the Commonwealth of Mass. Also means filed sub-bids if you're within a qualifying category as well. So that typically adds anywhere from 20 to 40% onto the cost of construction on projects. So the lease is important relative to these projects going out to bid. So we're here tonight just to review the phase one. We've been before you about these projects. Now we're getting ready to go out to bid on the first phase. And we've done a bit of work since we were here last time. We did the survey of the property. We did the further abatement survey of the building. There was some concern that the adhesive in the tile floors would be hot, meaning would test positive for asbestos or PCB, God forbid. It turns out it was not. It was clean. We had it tested, but they did find asbestos in all of the caulking in the old windows, the old putty on the exterior. And then we got quotes looking at abating that versus the cost of replacing it. And believe it or not, it's significantly less expensive to abate it and repair it. So that was sort of an easy decision to make. And we also packaged the project and went up to the Mass Historic Commission and received the approval from the Mass Historic Commission. That's a pretty lengthy process to get the PNF, the Project Notification Form, which is needed for the Cultural Facilities Fund. So all of that is in place. The funds are ready. They have all of their approvals. Now we're getting ready to go out to bid. And we're here tonight just to update you. So given the survey, when we got the actual contours of the building, a little bit changed. We ended up having to widen the door a little bit because of the depth of the exterior wall. The ramp we extended it a little bit because of the existing contours, and we had to flatten out the existing driveway a little bit to meet the strict ADA regulations for the off-ramp on the handicap parking spot. So can you advance this? Oh, yeah. Okay, there you go. So we have the parking space. We're using the existing parking area. We're actually going to repave a portion of it to make it a little flatter where we have the off-ramp, the handicap ramp on the side of the building, and then the existing bathroom, we're making it a little bit larger to make it handicap accessible. And there it is from the side. We're replacing the rails going into the building. The historic front of the building on Elm Street will be restored, but we are replacing the rails and putting compliant rails on both sides of that stair, of which there is only a railing on one right now, and it's not compliant. And then, of course, obviously, the ramp will have compliant rails. And then super exciting to start to get this underway. Working with the Dartmouth Cultural Center and really taking a deep dive into their programming and how they use the space. It's a tiny building, so there's no margin for error. But we've, I think, come up with some clever solutions to sort of maximize the space and let them continue to grow their programming. So super excited, and I'm here to answer any questions. I think you have seen the drawings. In the interim, we did get some help with the public procurement process. Attorney Christopher Markey has agreed to work with us to help us through that process and the construction contract review. And we got some help from a retired OPM from Boston area to help us review the bids. He's actually got a tremendous amount of experience. So that's been, I'm grateful for all the help, actually. And I know that the Dartmouth Cultural Center is as well, so.
Well, it's exciting to hear, that's for sure. Board members have any questions, comments?
No, it looks great. Exciting.
So this bid, excuse me, this bid process will not be will not be through prevailing wage. It's going to be.
It is, yeah. We have to do the public procurement process, so.
Is that a result of the lease?
Yes. Yes.
It's going to add 20, 30, 40% to the cost?
Yes.
No.
So for the first phase, then, would that change on this, by a town meeting when you get a longer lease?
Yes, we will not have to abide by the public procurement process for the remaining projects. Yeah. Also, what we find, I don't know about Dartmouth, but I do quite a bit of public work in New Bedford, and what we find is when you're not having to abide by the public procurement process going out to bid, it really depends on the funding source in a lot of the projects I get involved in. But you usually get local contractors involved in the project, so it ends up being a great stimulus for the local economy. It's intimidating for a local contractor to be DCAM certified. It's just a hard process. It's costly. It's,
Anybody else?
And there's nothing we can do about that time frame now, right?
No. Unfortunately, no. Unless we call for,
Special town meeting,
special town meeting. But I doubt you're going to get too much participation for this one question. Generally, when you call for a special town meeting, it has to be of, please don't get me wrong when I say this, of the utmost urgency.
Right, catastrophic something.
Yes.
So the one thing that I wanted to just mention is because this does not meet the threshold of $1 million, we don't need a project manager. However, ultimately, this will fall under Tim Lancaster. So I would like Tim to be involved in the process going forward during building, to serve in that capacity.
Yeah.
And I can think of another person that could assist in that capacity. It's not mandated because this is not a $1 million project, but to make sure that DCC and the town are taken care of.
Yeah, because I know there's be some regulatory, oversight by the building commissioner.
Oh, he as well.
Yeah, well, we'll know he has basically the law to stand behind, so, and nothing's gonna slip past him. But the idea of having another set of eyes or a town OPM would be helpful. It is our building, we should really kind of make sure everything is done correctly. So,
Right.
yeah, we can.
That way, if there's anything
have
that,
that discussed with Tim,
okay.
so. Okay, anything else?
Over here.
Mr. Tattelbaum?
So this first phase is $140,000?
Plus or minus. Yeah.
Right. And potential could add 20 to 30 to 40% because of the way we have to go out to bid?
We did factor that in on the cost estimate, but yes,
That's included in the 140?
yes, yeah.
So if it was, without the 140, it'd be close to, I'm ballparking, be closer to 100.
Yeah, around 110, yeah.
A lot of money.
Handicap accessibility is not cheap.
What's that?
Handicap accessibility is.
No, I'm not debating. I'm only debating the difference in the cost between the prevailing wage process and the normal process.
Look down, this is project 1, and then there's project 2, the exterior rehabilitation, and project 3, the interior renovation.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure they have this lease in place before they go to project 2 and 3.
Exactly.
Right.
I think we can say, sadly, we've learned our lesson.
Well, playing the devil's advocate here, we do have one option, is to wait for town meeting to start the building. for potential savings of $30,000. And I'm throwing that out there.
I would agree with you if town meeting was right around the corner, but town meeting is basically 6 months away. The way prices are on building materials and whatnot,
It could get
that
eaten
could
up.
significantly change in 6
That
months.
could eat away part of the savings, no doubt.
And whatever we save, it just go away.
I think it's, I didn't say I like the idea, but I think it's worth throwing out to discuss it, because no question, part of that savings, part of that additional cost will be wiped out by inflation of some kind.
I really appreciate the effort, and we had discussed that, obviously, internally, looking at all of this stuff. But you're right, who knows what's going to happen in the next, 9 months.
But at least in 2 weeks, they'll have a solidified lease that they can say, yes, we have a lease, but we also have, they can also say that we have
Well, that's
assurances that the town will be moving forward at the next town meeting for an extended lease.
But that 3-year lease is not going to do anything for this
But
process.
it gets them, right now, they have no lease.
But no, it won't do anything for this process. It'll
Right.
give the organization which deserves a lease, a lease.
But it gets them a lease.
What timetable from here in terms of when we can put a shovel in the ground for this portion of the project?
Yeah, for the public procurement process, the whole process is about 8 weeks. By the time you get the contract, have it reviewed by the attorney, sign the construction contract, all of that. It's about 8 to 9 weeks.
So you're into the holiday period
Yeah.
as well, so
Yeah.
are we talking January?
Yeah. Yeah. So pending weather.
And how long approximate would this first phase take?
Oh, 3 to 4 months, weather dependent, though. There's some exterior weather. Yeah. Yes, because you can see in our head, like we're running through it, because the public procurement process, you're guided by, you're mandated by timelines.
Any comment we should get from the building inspector, Mr. Chairman?
I think he's.
Look on page 57, they've
Tried
got
to
it
look, saying,
laid
I don't
out.
wanna- I'm fine with what's going on.
I gave you my email, did you guys get that?
So, okay,
Yeah,
All right.
but you raised good points. I mean, very good points.
all right, so we got a good presentation, we got a good time frame as to what you guys are gonna be doing, and you're gonna get a 3-year lease in 2 weeks. And with an assurance that we're gonna look for more. Thank you. Okay. All right, and actually, to be honest with you, if you need to have the assurance, whatever motion that is made for the lease in 2 weeks, it'll be noted in the minutes that we're going to be looking for more. So at least you can have the approved minutes to show anybody saying, hey, look, they said they're gonna give us more. So I know sometimes that's, sometimes a promise isn't as good enough, but sometimes a promise is better than absolutely nothing.
And you do have to be cognizant of the term, right? So if there are grants out there that are gonna be, say, 300,000 for 10 years, but we could have gotten another 150 for 15, we have to be, while we're going through this process, make sure that we're hitting the number that's most beneficial to the organization, so.
Yeah, the fact that the Mass Historic Commission has signed off on it and glowingly gave support for the PNF. So you're in good shape to get more cultural facilities funding, frankly.
Find anything.
Terrific. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda, we have the Police Brotherhood Union Memorandum of Agreement. Mr. Guerrero.
So, Mr. Chairman, we had a conversation with the union, the Brotherhood, on some items that were involving police detail for a few of the officers. That was in the interim when we were working out the final draft agreement from the contract that we had just signed. The total is only $1,800, and it would satisfy this agreement and close the.
Okay. Board members have any questions? Do I have a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement, the MOA?
So moved.
And motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by
Mrs. Brooks.
Mrs. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none unanimous. Okay. All right, next is the Boards and Commissions Handbook, the review and the adoption.
So, Mr. Chairman, what you have in front of you is the, one of the, I don't want to say it's a final version, but it's closest to the final version that we would have. There were some tweaks that Heidi, Mrs. Brooks had sent us that we changed, some formatting. But we did meet, both herself, Chris, and Terry Ham, and went over some of the items that are in here. As we said, this is a fluid, moving document that hopefully will get updated and changed every year so that we can have the most current information as far as rules, regulations, and any new legislation that needs to be put in here and acted upon. So what you have in front of you is what we would consider almost the final draft.
Yep. The handbook itself is complete. We need to work on appendixes A and B, and not we as in the small group that's working on this, but we as in the board. The select board needs to discuss any boards or commissions or committees that we felt that we wanted to bring in and talk about their charge, or conjoining any of them, dismantling any of them. We also talked about when we go forth, we would not be suggesting that we would have any ad hoc committees that would have a connection to the town. You would either be an approved committee or not. But A and B are the sections that we need to look at. And then Appendix C, if you look at that, that would be the public meeting notice. So this is what each of those boards would need to submit to the town clerk in order to post it. And then you can see Appendix D has a format to use for the public meeting minutes. So those two appendixes, as well as E, which has a listing of other resources, we feel are complete. It's just our work now as a select board to look at the boards that are listed under Appendix A and their summary of charges in Appendix B.
Question?
Mr. Titlebaum.
Phenomenal work, Mrs. Brooks, and I guess Gary and Chris. From your perspective, there's things in here that need to be significant changes. Is there a lot of heavy lifting there in terms of time to do this, to get this thing moving, or is it you don't look at it that way? I guess your perspective on what needs to be done to get us compliant.
Well, in the board, I think in the handbook, I think the nice thing about it is it does lay out timelines for when we would, we would be acting on all the boards to be appointed July 1st, our first meeting in the new fiscal year, and our boards would run on that calendar. Tonight, we reappointed someone mid-cycle, we appointed someone mid-cycle to finish a term. We would then, in July 1st, look at the first meeting after July 1st, look at everybody's attendance at meetings and do a very thorough appointment at that time. In the handbook, it gives a time frame for when the town clerk will reach out to the chairman or chairpersons of each of those committees and let them know, here are the people that are coming up for renewal, and then get information back in advance of that meeting to know that, yes, these people want to be considered for reappointment, or these people are stepping down. And that way, when we have someone that steps down, June 30th, hopefully the chair of that committee has found a name or we have names available for people that are interested in joining committees. That's
I
a
understand
whole,
that process. That's to get ready for July 1. Before that, like liaisons between the select board or staff liaisons or committees that need to be, there are some on here that we're going to recommend to either eliminate or that kind of work to get us so we will be compliant. That's going to happen before July 1st?
I should hope so.
So, I mean,
Because some of this, if you look at Appendix A, which is page 73,
okay.
there are boards that we have talked about that we appoint,
Yeah.
and, Chris Vitale is looking at Agricultural Commission versus Agricultural Preservation Trust Council. Which ones are deemed through state statute that we have to have? Because there are some boards that we have to have. But are their charges so different that they can't be?
That example is something that needs to be taken care of.
Yes.
Is there a lot of that that's going to be time-consuming, that requires a lot of decisions, in your view, so that we can be ready for July 1st, so that we will be compliant with this handbook for the new year?
I don't think that's a heavy lift.
Well, going through all the committees or liaisons established and that sort of thing. You don't think it,
No, because I really don't think there's, whoops, sorry, I just screwed it up. I don't think that there are a lot of those. I mean, I think we'll look down this list
okay.
and say, this board's all set, that board's all set.
Do you envision that we have, one of our meetings is going to be for that purpose, kind of thing?
Well, I would hope that we, now that we have this handbook in front of us, that we individually would look through Appendix A and Appendix B
Okay.
and make some notes as individual members, so that when we do talk about this, we've done our homework in advance.
But we would have it in preparation, we'd be prepared for the meeting. I don't mean to belabor this, I'm just trying to get hands around it, because the beauty of this is it's going to really give us some structure, but we need to get compliant. We're prepared for the meeting, we come to the meeting, we would designate a select board meeting like this to go through that list and come up with a plan to where we plus or minus out these different committees and the boards. Is that what you're envisioning?
Yeah, we could do it that way. The bottom line is to look at these and look at that on-board site, which was shown to us.
Sure.
And then we can look through and say, all right, now we need to publicly announce which boards, and I'm just going to use boards, it covers boards, committees, commissions, which boards need members. And go forward. Right now, if we're thinking of conjoining a board, why would we go out for members and then eliminate? But I think we can look through Appendix A and B and do the boards represent our needs? So I'm not picking on anyone, but I'm looking at Disability and Accessibility Commission. So that has a range of 5 to 13 members. It's overseen by the ADA coordinator. The ADA coordinator is the building department head. The board has 5 to 13 members if you read it. Currently, that board has 1 member on it. So we need to find out. We need to have that.
Right.
When do they meet? What is the purpose? And do we need to have a board with 13 members?
It's a great example. But to me, that seems like a lot of time and effort to do it, because that conversation is going to come up with other boards and committees as well. Yes? Or not that many?
I don't think there's that many.
Okay.
If a board is noted in the charter, then basically we can't touch it without a charter change. So it would be only those boards or committees that are not within the charter that can be dealt with accordingly.
Or we sign up for town meeting in the spring to make the change based on our
But if
recommendation.
it's a charter change, then you're talking, town meeting and then having to wait another year for an election. so. But, I mean, I think the idea is to handle the low-hanging fruit first, which would be the smaller boards, because to be honest with you, there was a purpose for the, for the ADA compliant at one point in time, but that purpose is no longer there because all the ADA compliance rests with the building inspector. So, I don't think that committee needs to be, I think that committee can go away, and that if there's any kind of, if there's anything in the future, we could always establish that, as a select board, we can establish any kind of committee as we see fit.
I just say, with all the work that's put in and all the attention, which I really admire, we have to make this a living document that we pay attention to and we conform to, because I think it's going to be a fair amount of work and effort and time to sort these all out and come up with it. I think it's great, and I'm certainly committed to help out.
Yeah, I think also too, Mr. Chairman, just for the few meetings that I was involved with, you're right. It's something that I think that we can't just develop, put on a shelf, and then forget about it, because it's going to take a lot of.
This is the Bible.
It's going to be. We revisit this over and over again. Yeah.
Sure.
And if there's a long-range plan to get rid of committees and it takes town meeting election, let's put it on there so that a year from now, or a year and a half from now,
Well,
it's
I don't
done.
think, I mean,
If that's
the
the
ones
case.
that Sean's talking about, a charter, the ones that are mentioned in the charter, they're the only ones that would have to go before town
I
meeting
understand.
and a town vote.
No, that-
Those, I don't think there's any in the charter that are not necessary. But I do think that when we look at, I think this is our job, I have to say.
100% agree.
So, if it takes us a bulk of a meeting, then that's what it takes.
Whatever
I
it
don't
takes.
think it will take the bulk of a meeting.
Whatever it takes.
But I think that's our job. And the document itself, the handbook itself, will not be a printed document. It will be an online document that has live links to the bylaws, the charter, annual town reports. There's information for elected boards, and there's different information for appointed boards. I think it's a comprehensive document. It has a live link that if you're interested in being appointed to a board, a spot that you would go to and post that, and if you click on it, that's on page 62, if you were to click on it, you'd see that is a drop-down menu, which boards would you like to be a part of? Right now, it happened to be that the boards that were live were the boards that had positions. We're changing that, so it's any board that is an appointed board. If somebody says, well, I want to be on the school committee, and it's not there, it's an elected board, that's why it's not there. So I think that will help us, and then that application is on file for 2 years. What that then does is that when a chair of a committee finds out that somebody is stepping down, they can have access to that and look and say, okay, these 3 people were interested in being a part of.
Do you foresee some of this work being done before the year's out, or what's your your vision of the timetable?
Yeah, before 2024 is done, you mean? Yeah.
So we got to schedule that out so we can.
Well, it's November. I think we've got 1 more meeting in November, 2 meetings in December. It all depends. We haven't talked about, going forth. We know town administrator selection committee is going to be reviewing in the next few weeks. And then when that puts on for us, this may be something that we're not looking at until January, but I don't think we're on fire.
We're what?
There's no fire.
No, so I'm asking you because
Yeah.
some of the stuff maybe we should be waiting for the town administrator, but and others we could do. I'm not.
I don't think there's anything heavy in here that a town administrator needs to weigh in on. I don't.
We're not changing the way we're doing business, we're just showing how we're doing business.
My only concern with this and the board openings, some of the boards in the past that are filled, I would just like to see, even if they're filled, the appointments that are that people have filled the board with, that the public is aware of, you know, not an opening, but an open position, that it's coming up for renewal. And treat the open positions where there is no body in the seat, along with all committees, filled or not, that they're advertised and they're treated the same way. Because what I think is that we might have people in positions that if they had an out, they'd probably say, okay, yeah, you know, join the committee, help me out. I've been on it for too long and I want out. You know, and that turnover might actually be helpful for us to get some new ideas and things like that going and get another generation on some of the boards. So the only thing that I don't even know how to explain it, but just to say, I hope that we advertise all positions the same way and let people know when every position comes up using the website that they can apply for each one, whether there's someone in the seat right now or not.
I think that the easier thing for us now is if we're looking at those July 1st appointments, everybody will know all committees are going to be looked at.
Yeah.
And I think it also helps if we're not just looking at whether or not the people attended meetings.
Right.
I mean, right now, that's all we're looking at. And I'd hope that, as you're saying, the people in those seats want to be there and have some vision of what they're working toward on that board or committee.
What they have added to it, yeah.
There's also a piece of that we've talked about and have never done, but in this handbook, it does state that there would be an opportunity for training of people who are new to boards. And I'm excited for that. We'll do an in-person training, but we'll also have it taped so that anyone that can't make it can look at it. But it also talks about the things that people get hung up on, you know, posting the meeting, completing the minutes, how to run a meeting, creating the agenda, and what to do if you have an open meeting law violation.
That's great.
Also, the difference between a regular meeting and an executive board meeting. And I think the more we look at this, I think the more we'll see that when we have a board that maybe only has 3 members, we can talk about what is their purpose, and if we're afraid that they're talking to each other, which becomes a violation of an open meeting law, should that board be expanded to 5? To give it to an appointed board would be easier than an elected board, but I mean, I think it starts our conversation because I know while I've been on here, we haven't looked at any board at that
As far as the composition.
and that level.
I for one, would feel strongly, we recommend that to me, the board, the department that needs the most amount of work and should be waiting for a new town administrator would be the Department of Public Works. And if there was one to wait for to do the heavy lifting on that department, it would be with a new town administrator.
There's other boards, though, that we can
No,
talk
exactly,
about.
no, that's just, no, the other one, there's many, I mean, that would be one I'd like to see wait, but the other was, all that work can be done.
Right, and the DPW falls under the charter,
Yep,
so.
yep. Great.
So we can separate it. We can look at
Yeah.
non-charter boards.
Yep.
So, and I have no problem. I can pull those out. Non-charter boards, boards that are mandated by the state. Then we have charter boards and elected boards.
I think.
So I think it's 4 sections.
I think you and your group have done a fantastic job, much appreciated.
Okay, so there's really nothing we need to do tonight?
I think we are looking at to accept the actual handbook, but
Knowing that there'll be amendments. Knowing that there'll be amendments.
Yeah.
Under review.
the only thing we're looking on is Appendix A and B.
Yeah, the appendix.
So basically, the motion would be to accept the handbook as presented with the proviso that amendments A and B would be reviewed and updated, and that if there's anything, as we said, you know, everything's going to be. So do I have a motion on that?
I'll make the motion, yes.
Second.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Brooks, seconded by Mr. Tattlebaum. On the motion, any questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, none unanimous. All right, interim town administrator update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Conservation Office has a new conservation officer, Eduardo Fortes. Eduardo started today, and I'd like to welcome him aboard. I attended the Veterans Luncheon also with a couple members here of the Select Board on Friday, November 1st, Rachel's Lakeside. It was a great event with many attendees honoring our town veterans and their families. And lastly, the 3 flags in front of the town hall are being replaced because of their condition. There'll be the U.S. flag, the POW, and the state flag on the poles out front. That's all I have right now.
Nice.
The town flag okay?
We can check on the town flag, yeah.
Yeah, check on the town flag also. Okay. Okay, thank you. Old business, Bliss Corner,
No new updates?
Nokichoke,
No new updates. Municipal?
Broadband,
No new updates.
DEP Title V.
No new updates.
Okay. Minutes, October 7th. Board's pleasure.
Accept and file. Motion.
Motion made by Mr. O'Neill to accept. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Mickelson. On the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none unanimous.
And I will abstain. I was not here. I was in the
Okay,
Azores.
with one abstention. Okay. Select Board updates. Anybody have anything? Mr. Tattlebaum?
Well, I think I'd like to congratulate the Vitale family. Chris Vitale, a new boy, was arrived, I think, yesterday. And they seem, the word is they're doing well, and congratulations. Life will never be the same.
Congratulations.
No kidding. Mr. Mickelson, you have anything?
For the good.
Don't forget to vote tomorrow.
Yep. Mr. O'Neill?
I'm going to let you go early tonight, Sean.
All right. Mrs. Brooks?
Yes, I have, well, one thing is to just announce that the Dartmouth band won their division on, I think, again, which was very exciting. And currently, we have 3 teams from the high school, volleyball, boys soccer, and field hockey in tournament. They were playing today. I'm not sure what other teams have made it, but we are in tournament season. And lastly, I just wanted to address the Select Board, as well as I'm asking that this portion of my statement be shared with the Planning Board, as these remarks are in regard to the interview and deliberations which took place on Tuesday, October 22nd, in a joint meeting. While I was upset during the deliberations, I was unable to articulate my upset at the time. However, acknowledging that this board will be interviewing and deliberating for other positions in the near future, I want to make my observations known. During deliberations, there were several board members who voiced concerns over candidates' commitment to the town, the job, and the anticipated lack of longevity in the role of town planner, planning director. Having interviewed for positions in the past, when I was asked if I would follow my husband's career, or how would I handle motherhood and child rearing while employed? I know that these are not the questions which were asked of either candidate, but to banter about which candidate did we feel would have staying power brought me right back to those interview questions. We should only be concerned with the hiring of a candidate who has qualifications matching our job description, a level of experience leading that candidate with the skill set we desire, and a willingness to join the Dartmouth team. It is then our job to train and support the candidate for success in the position. Dartmouth should always move in the direction of the best candidate for the position, never because we don't want to be looking for another candidate again. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, I do have one request. Mr. Carrero, since you're going to be the one here, Town Hall, I'd like to have town vehicles that are in the back parking lot moved down below so that we will have plenty of parking for voting tomorrow up here. If you could do that, please. And that also, if contact the school to see if there's any event at the field, at the stadium tomorrow. And if there is, to get a school employee back here to make sure that any parking for the event be somewhere else other than behind Town Hall, and just leave these spaces open for voting parking.
The school department does have a sign, but unfortunately, they rest it against the field.
And it doesn't help anything.
So it needs to be placed in front of the town hall that says, park in the middle
Yeah,
school.
there were two signs out here when I pulled up, and a gentleman moved the sign so he could park his vehicle. So that doesn't really work, so.
Take care of that tomorrow.
Literally. One of those things.
It was me.
All right, the last thing we have is two items of information, and Mr. Carrera.
So on November 12th, the Eversource will be hosting a public hearing, and this is, the company proposes issue of long-term debt securities through December 31st, 2027, in the form of first mortgage bonds. Under the regulations, they have to have a public hearing. Again, it's Tuesday, November 19th at 10 o'clock via Zoom. Those attendees can join. Meeting ID, we'll post this online so folks have this available. The second the second public hearing is for the planning board. It is for the location of 696 Dartmouth Street, Assessors Map 128, Lot 203. This is for the proposal of the 55 and older apartments. And that also is via Zoom. We'll post that information online so folks have that. And that, again, is November 18th.
It's great. It's a
Okay.
good project.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by
Mrs. Brooks.
Mrs. Brooks. We accept the minutes. 4:01. All right, any questions, which there better be none? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, none unanimous. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
I